Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Anna Sevortian, who is a human rights activist, consultant, has worked with Human Rights Watch in Russia, and is currently in Moscow. Anna, thank you for joining us on CivilNet.
Thanks very much. Pleasure.
I hear background noise. Somebody around you is in the middle of construction.
It is. Yeah, that's the state of things in Russia, I believe.
Yeah, it's not too different here often. In any case, if we see it's a problem, we will disconnect. Anna, let me start asking you about the human rights situation in Russia by saying something about the human rights situation in Armenia. It appears as if the government authorities feel comfortable with the amount of control that there exists now over the media, and we've moved on to civil society, to activists, and so forth. Does that in any way parallel what's happening in Russia with Putin's return?
Well, it's quite paradoxical at the moment in Russia, I would say, because for the first time, civil society as a force was seen properly in Russia over the last couple of years. But at the same time, the reforms, the changes in the legislation under Putin since he returned to the Kremlin were so severe that a lot of analysts and myself would definitely think that they aimed against the civil society activities. And in many ways, these changes are largely disturbing and largely reviving a discourse that is enormously harmful for any future developments in terms of human rights and democracy here. And I'm talking about foreign agents and anti-foreign hysteria in the media, in the society, and definitely that's something pretty detrimental. So, well, there might be a parallel.
You know, sometimes one thinks that the more absurd and exaggerated the charges, the less likely they are to stick. But it seems that's not so. The foreign agents law, all of the freedom of assembly restrictions, I mean, they've taken on rather absurd dimensions.
Well, absurd dimensions, but you know, that's the law now, and not to mention the Magnitsky law that penalizes and prohibits people with double passports, with dual citizenship, Russian and American citizenship, from being heads or members of NGOs. I mean, yes, that's definitely an absurdity, and that's unlawful, but it's a law now. So, well, legal absurdity definitely means that the rules of the game are changing on the way, and not changing for the better.
The discourse, the activism that was visible about a year ago is now on the wane. In other words, is this, you know, frustration and disappointment time? Is the cycle going down, or is there an understanding that this is going to be long and sustained?
Well, no one knows what's going to happen, and definitely if just geographically and demographically you would look on Russia, you would see a lot of people in their 30s and 40s, and people that are much better off than they used to be, and obviously people that have traveled and have seen other places, and understanding that some things in Russia are just not going in the right direction. And I don't think that something can stop these people from activism. But of course, it depends what sort of activism we're talking about. And there is some disillusionment in mass protests. So definitely they will go on, but it really depends. Well, it depends on the way police will be treating the protesters. It depends on the whole atmosphere in the country. But at the same time, other types of political, non-political activism, I think will just go on developing, such as charitable things. And well, in Russia, any sort of activism somehow mysteriously happens to be one step away from being political. And you know that the foreign agents law in a way makes this connection and actually in a way says that an international advocacy or advocacy, that's political activity, and builds a very strong link. But I definitely believe that there is that sort of active element and an active bunch of people in Russia, and they will go on with activism, though unfortunately they might be made a minority by all these restrictive rules and regulations of the past few months.
Human Rights Watch is an American, an international organization. Who else is there on the ground with that kind of access to noisemakers and policymakers and opinion makers around the world?
I think we're in a good company, and a few other international organizations are working in Russia. I mean, those non-governmental NGOs, and of course, Amnesty does a great work as well, International Crisis Group, and most importantly, there is a big number of NGOs in Russia doing various things, and courageous human rights groups like the Memorial, Moscow Helsinki Group, Committee Against Torture. So there are a lot of voices, I think, but of course you see that the government is in a way trying to silence these voices or introduce some background noise, just as it's happening now and here, but that's not the government, just citizens. But at the same time, these voices, they definitely need to be heard. So it's not just on one end, but on the other end. It's as well important that Russia is, and Russian activists are listened to. And I realize that definitely the post-Soviet space in Russia is no longer a big international priority if we speak international relations. But yes, we think that's important, that attention is somehow diverted to our region because important things are going on.
Well, we certainly know that in Armenia, and you know that the Russian example is irreplaceable. And so we look to your work and we'll follow your work and your colleagues and hope that things move in the right direction in Russia and therefore in Armenia. We've been talking to Anna Sevortian, a human rights analyst, professional consultant in Moscow, formerly with Human Rights Watch. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching CivilNet.